Alright then, yeah, this is part 3 to psychic phenomenon and psychosis. Basically kind of a discussion about, the first video really wasn't going into much detail about specific examples about kind of the link between psychosis and psychic happenings or psychic occurrences or psychic experiences. But on part 2 and part 3 I'm going to talk more about more specifically the kind of instances and experiences that people have of psychic experiences during psychosis and things. So basically to carry on from my last video, I was talking about a very common experience people have during psychosis, and it's not just, a lot of these experiences are not just basically separate to people suffering from psychosis. You find many things I've researched since my breakdown and finding out about other people's experiences and my own. There are many correlations with people who have never been diagnosed as mentally ill or never suffer so much from their experiences, but find other ways. Like if you look into shamanism, for example, and mediumship in the West, and shamanism and tribal communities and things, many experiences that the shamans have would be deemed by mainstream Western psychiatrists as being mentally ill and schizophrenic or psychotic, but psychosis. There would and many experiences mediums have and psychics and people who have many spiritual experiences and mystical experiences relate to. If you look into a lot of what a lot of what mystics experience and people with spiritual experiences and things, there's many correlations with people who are undergoing psychosis. I guess the kind of main thing is that the person suffering with psychosis, as they tend to get captured by the mental health system, so to speak, it's because they're deemed a danger to society or themselves, and usually because they're going through a hell of a lot of suffering, damaging or destroying their relationships and doing things extremely out of character, and that could be deemed as very dangerous in some manner, in some form or another. So that's usually why they're picked up. Either families report them, or they access mental health services through the GP and things, or other people or the police section people. But obviously there are lots of mental health conditions which don't have this kind of, people are generally very depressed, who are very depressed, and they should never underestimate how severe depression can be, because if you know anyone who's severely had severely had depression, it's not a minor condition. It's definitely not. It's going to be an extremely serious thing that affects a lot of people, actually, especially this modern day age with so much stress and pressure on people. I've had a lot of depression in my time as well. But there's other mental health conditions that probably wouldn't have that connection with psychic phenomenon, as I've called it. But definitely, to me, psychosis does. For many people, obviously, I don't know, a lot of people might go through things which they say, that's definitely not, had no connection to a psychic experience for me. But for me and many of the people I spoke to and a lot of research I've done, there's definitely a definite connection there. But again, I would say that, if you're going through psychosis or mildly psychotic at times, always, don't take it so seriously, because that is usually the thing that gets you the most, is taking everything that goes in your head with the utmost amount of seriousness and importance, and you believe that that's the ultimate universal truth, when in fact it could be a diversion of the truth. It could actually be completely miscommunication and misinterpretation, that your mind is taking these signals and signs and symbols and express them in a way that is very unpractical and very unreal compared to what's going on. So you have to stay grounded. If I could go back to myself when I was during that psychosis, and if someone could really implant it into my head and my heart, that basically what you're going through, you know, somehow detach yourself from it, so don't take it so seriously. But I mean, for me, it was so much in my head, so it become my whole life for years, and it was so overpowering that there wasn't really anyone could have said to me anyway to have made it differently. But I'd just like to say, yeah, basically take everything with a pinch of salt, especially in psychosis, because you can extremely get a lot wrong. And another thing I think is that there might be an underlying feeling which has come from your childhood or something, of kind of distrust, or feeling things are going on behind the scenes against you. And when you're in psychosis, another very kind of sensitive, vulnerable state is that you know, you can, those feelings express itself as visions and misinterpretations. So you can, if you've got a kind of underlying feeling from, you know, when you were younger growing up, that someone's kind of keeping the truth from you, or people are not being totally honest, or you feel quite abandoned. I mean, during psychosis, these feelings can come up in all sorts of different ways, and you know, it's not always so much that the expression of the psychosis, I'm not saying it's like ultimately true all the time. I'm just saying that there can be a lot of symbols and meanings, and psychosis can be explored in very meaningful ways, which I think as I said before, modern psychiatry doesn't really take into account. So yeah, well, I'll go back to the last point I made on the second video, which is that many people, whilst experiencing psychosis, can have a very common thread of belief that they have some form of magical powers. I don't think I've kind of said enough on that really, so I'd like to say more. Really, well, I'll put it straight, I'm a believer in magic and mysticism and myth, and in many ways I believe that many stories have symbolism, and a lot of stories which we take now as kind of magical and untrue, I actually believe a lot of them is probably honestly what happened in many ways, but there might have been kind of glorified and exaggerated over the years. But if you, something that, like, you know, David Icke and other people go on about is understanding the world in terms of frequency, energy, and sort of, yeah, frequency and energy really, and resonance. You know, if you really, I mean, I thought I knew really what kind of different realms and dimensions were, but you don't until you really, really take on board this idea of frequency and understand energy. Because when you understand dimensions and frequency on a kind of on a great scale, when you really grasp that kind of concept, you can understand that we could be living, we are, you know, we're living in a multi-dimensional universe and a multi-dimensional world, and energy and frequency can have it is an understanding on how we can understand those things. And so to me, magic, a thought is an energy. You know, I don't know if I'm explaining it very well, but when something when something of a powerful different frequency is in coordination, is in connection with this physical universe, a physical dimension that we're living on planet Earth, then I believe magical things can happen. Usually, the kind of density of the three-dimensional realm is so is such that not many, you know, kind of magical or miraculous things can happen. But I mean, for a start, Christians and Catholics, you know, Jesus more or less was a kind of a spiritual wizard. If people believe he can come back from the dead and walk on water and things, that is more or less, you know, the stories of myth and magic, which has been in human culture for since we can remember, since what's been recorded. You know, there's stories of women and men and wizards and witches that are magical people, spiritual people who've performed all sorts of magical acts. And when you know, to me, that, anyway, that's what I'm basically saying. I can't explain it very well, but when you really understand frequency, energy and dimension, and the power of the spirit and the human heart and the power of the mind, especially very gifted people who are from a spiritual plane. So many of them have powers of energy which they can possess and learn and train and be very skilled in. So, I mean, a lot of Christians, Jesus to me was a spiritual wizard in many ways, what he did. And I know that sounds like a lot of people think, oh, that's all mad, believing in myth and magic and things, but many people believe in it, and it is almost like on the peripherals of society, because the mainstream human culture it exists very much in very usually egotistical and dense manner, so it doesn't understand quite often the fine energies of what can happen in kind of spirituality and shamanism and things. So yeah. So basically getting back to that, so I think when a lot of people going under psychosis, they can have this experience that they somehow possess magical powers, and I'm not saying that's always the truth. I'm not saying that's like you can definitely do that if you under psychosis. If you believe it, it's got to be real. I think a belief is an energy and a force, but I do believe that. I'm not explaining myself very well, but what I want to say is I've heard it termed that the modern day psychiatric system is the equivalent of the wizard and witch hunt of the past. You know what I mean? That more or less that people generally in human nature, in the culture, people go through psychosis, and from those experiences they would learn or harness some other powers of transcending the human mind or going into alternate states of reality, and through this they would harness, not all of them obviously, but a lot of people would harness spiritual gifts and things, which what the medication and things were put on in a sense stops us in many ways. Anyway, so I know I'm getting on controversial ground talking about kind of myth and magic and the possible reality of it, or not so, but I really do feel there is something there about the human mind and the human energy field, which we all have, that can have a spiritual energetic effect on the reality around us. But that is going into kind of quantum energy, quantum metaphysics and all that sort of thing. And when people talk about the power of prayer, I mean, what's that if that's not the power of your own mind connecting to a higher power in order to manifest something, And a lot of people believe in the power of prayer and miracles. I mean, a lot of people would say it has to be aided by God, but to me, many gods and deities and energies are real. Anyway, so I'll leave that point behind, because I think that's getting a bit... so, I mean, any other kind of experiences during psychosis? I mean, I spoke a bit about a major theme that a lot of people have is believing they're communicating or being affected by or attacked by or helped by a non-physical entity, whether that be an angel, a spirit guide, a deity, a god, goddesses, or on the bad side, demons, evil spirits, horrible gods or whatever, or other forces. And that is a very, very common theme in psychosis. And really, if you look back through most of human history, there has always been that belief in other forces, higher powers, that guide over the humanity and certain individuals, which I actually believe is very real. But I believe we're going through a different age now, which we're learning the universe from a very materialistic focus, and that's what the human race is exploring right now. And to me, that doesn't make either one of them unreal. I believe science is very real. I believe science has done amazing things for the human race and the things, but also I believe that the gods and goddesses of old are very real as well, and that the kind of inner planes of the mind, the energy that we can connect to, a thought, a belief, an experience, a vision, has a reality on a certain level. That's what I believe. and that's what I've experienced really. So yeah, any other experiences? I mean, hearing voices for a start was just massively powerful in psychosis. There's a lot of evidence in kind of like alternative therapies and things to suggest that a lot of hearing voices can be an entity or spirit attachment to the person. And I've been doing a lot of research on YouTube lately and discovering there's quite a few therapists, even in Britain, that treat people for spirit attachments with voices or entities getting into the head. I mean, in my belief, voices can be part of your own personality that are split off, and quite often that persecutes the individual or attacks the individual as it's in a kind of warped way of trying to get recognised. But I also definitely believe and experience that voices in the head can be spirit attachments, they can be entities lingering on, they can be the voices of an ancestor, or they can be, you know, all sorts of things. And voices can really, in many ways, it's clairaudience, but sometimes it's obviously too distressing for the person to be able to cope with, and that's why they end up usually going on medication, or the voices are saying bad things. But I mean, in the past, our science has liberated this in so many ways from very dogmatic religious psycho-spiritual dogmas, you know, about everything being demonic or good, or God and the Satan and devil is so black and white. Anyway, but science has really liberated from that in many ways. But I think it's going so physical that it's missing other things that are very real, I feel, as well, which I do believe the age of Aquarius is bringing the two together, where science will merge with the more subtle energies of spirituality, and learn many things from the alternative health scene, which they're making lots of progress in many ways, and exploring a lot of old ancient knowledge that's been here since people, you know, looked in the sky, you know what I mean? Anyway, so yeah, I'll leave that for now. I probably didn't get that much said that I wanted to, but I'll keep speaking upon this subject, and I think I'll do a video as well on explaining kind of my understanding of frequency, energy and dimension, because I think when you really get a good grasp of that, which I have more recently and have in the past at times, it can really open your mind to what really is out there in many ways. So yeah, that's it for now. Thank you for listening and watching, and I'll do another one soon. Thanks, bye.